Hey guys, what is up and welcome to a new League of Legends video. It is that time once again to talk about all of the big changes coming to League of Legends in just a few days with the new patch. Now there's going to be a lot of information from 2 new champions to even something that's arguably considered a rework. So if you guys end up enjoying this type of video and you want me to continue doing these patch videos every 2 weeks, then let me know by simply hitting that like button. But without much further ado, let's get right into the biggest changes of patch 7.8. Now the very first thing to discuss and probably the biggest thing coming to this new patch are without question going to be the newest champions, Xayah and Rakan. This is not only I believe the very first time that Riot has released 2 new champions at the exact same time, but these 2 champions also have special interactions that can only be made with each other, whether it's backing together or even have empowered abilities when used within or on one another. So let's quickly talk about both of these champions separately, the first of which being Xayah. So of the 2, Xayah is going to be the ranged ADC marksman champion. Now she's going to be essentially using her feathers to attack, and she actually does quite a bit of damage and is exceptionally fun to play and looks very stylish. Her ultimate is pretty much an ADC's wet dream where she goes into the air and throws a bunch of damage onto the ground, but the part that's important is the fact that she becomes flat out untargetable as she jumps in the air, allowing an ADC to dodge many big important skill shots that may fly at them or even targeted abilities, which is really important for the role, and also reposition yourself very slightly. Her laning phase is actually decently strong, especially level 2 if you have a Rakan combined with yourself. Again, she scales really well thanks to her W. The E damage with the crit as well does a lot of damage later on into the game, and all in all just a very solid ADC that I think will actually be pretty strong upon release. Following her, we also have Rakan, the second champion coming out to League of Legends in just a few days, of course, onto the live servers. His playstyle is very similar to sort of like an assassin support type champion, because at the end of the day, he is a support champion. He does provide shields, he peels for people, and he just does a whole bunch of things like that, and he doesn't really have the best kit when it comes to playing him, for instance, maybe AP mid lane, since his Q is not AoE whatsoever, it's single target. But he has an insane amount of mobility within his kit, especially if he's played beside or along with Xayah. And he's essentially a very strong and effective slippery assassin support that can get in, get out, bring a lot of CC, who has a great ultimate as well. Passive is somewhat questionable, but I guess it's pretty okay regardless. But all in all, a pretty damn good support that's insanely fun to play. But now that we got the 2 new champions out of the way, let's talk about the actual current champions and the buffs or nerfs they're receiving. First of which being Aatrox. So even after his rework and some buffs after that as well, Aatrox is still a little bit lackluster, so Riot is still trying to buff him up and put him into a spot where he can be considered a meta champion. So here are the buffs he is receiving. His W has its heal increased from 5% to 6.5%, which is actually pretty damn good, especially as you scale later on into the game. But the biggest buff is definitely his passive. Now the biggest issue at the moment is whenever Aatrox hits his passive fully stacked and he gets, the empowered auto attacks and attack speed and all that good stuff and just becomes stronger, well, the enemy champion you're laning against will just simply back off, wait for that buff to go away, and then go back in and re-engage or bully you or zone you or whatever. But now, and I think this is actually really good, is the fact that he can actually refresh the Hellbent passive to which he gets the bonus effects by attacking monsters. Which obviously means that now maybe you're not as forced to play Aatrox only in the top, and maybe this will make jungle Aatrox a thing, because this will definitely increase his clear speed overall, and it will help him get past everything, because on top of this, his passive has also had its attack speed increased by 10% at every single rank of it. So all in all, Aatrox as a whole got buffed with his W, but it seems like also Aatrox top lane with the attack speed increase has been slightly buffed, but more importantly, maybe Aatrox jungle would become a thing. Following this, we have some changes happening to Amumu. Now, the first of which is going to be to his new passive, Cursed Touch, causing enemies to take extra bonus true damage from any magic damage that they take. Well, this passive has had its percentage overall lowered from 15% all the way down to 10%. But to try and make up for this, the effect has also been slightly changed to where it no longer is reduced by resistances. And on top of this, his W ability Despair has had its percent max health changed from being 3% by rank 5 all the way down to 2% instead. But just like his passive, to sort of make up for this, the AP ratio has actually been increased from 1% per 100 AP to 2% per 100 AP instead. So it seems like the change to his W is to make AP Amumu a bit more prominent and not just be able to go pure tank Amumu and rely only on his passive's true damage with your team, of course, and on top of this also relying on just the percent damage from your W. So now if you truly want to actually deal some decent damage, well, you're probably gonna have to spec into a little bit of AP. Following this, we also have some changes happening to Lissandra now, the first of which is going to be towards her passive. So first of which, the cooldown on the passive has been changed from being 18 at every single rank to being 18 at the very first rank and going all the way down to 9, which is literally half. And on top of this, her Q ability Ice Shard has had its AP ratio increased by 5%, so from 65% to 70. Now this obviously isn't really the biggest thing in the entire world or the biggest changes or buffs or whatever, but regardless, it's still something to look forward to, and it's something to kind of remind you that Lissandra potentially still exists. She definitely may need a little bit more to get the gears going, but this should still be enough to kind of just again remind you she's still there. But moving along, let's talk about Nautilus, the guy in the top lane, the tank that's easy to play but still brings a lot of CC and everything to a team that usually you want from a top laner. Since he just has so much in his kit and he's just such an insanely useful champion, well, they're going to be nerfing him by just a bit. First off, by lowering his mana regeneration growth, and then following that, the mana cost on his E, Riptide, has been increased by 10 at every single rank. So the question is, is this enough to actually hurt Nautilus? Well, with the mana regen growth, the decrease, and also the increase in the mana cost on his E, which is his main form of harassing the laning phase, and overall just pushing power as well, this will definitely hurt him in the overall long run of obviously laning for an extended period of time, but it shouldn't be too crazy whatsoever. It's a nice little sort of tap on the wrist just to kind of, bring him back down a notch or two, but it should still put him in a pretty good spot and he should still be a pretty damn contested top laner for the most part. Next up, we have two champions that I'll talk about that have been getting a little bit more changes than the previous ones we already talked about. The first of those champions is going to be Shen. So first we have his Q ability, which now has its empowered attacks also deal bonus damage, starting at 15 to 40 all the way by level 16. But to sort of compensate for this, his empowered attacks bonus damage to non-champions, so maybe like minions, has actually flat out been removed. So he's sort of been a bit more streamlined to be more effective in the greater scheme of things, so he'll still have bonus damage to minions, being 40 by 16. But also be able to do this bonus damage to champions as well. Following this, his E ability Shadow Dash has had its energy cost lowered by 30, which is a decent amount actually, and the width has also been slightly increased, so that is just an easier ability to land. But it doesn't stop there just yet because his ultimate has also been buffed. Now the first thing is actually obviously a nerf because the base shield value has actually been lowered, and it's been lowered by a decent amount. However, to make up for this, and it's a pretty cool way to do so, the shield now actually scales up based on missing health of the target up to 160% of the base of value. So it can actually give you an extra 840 by rank 3, which obviously if you add up is gonna be quite the damn big shield. So if you're using it on an ally that actually desperately needs it, it'll be that much more effective. But the purpose of this change is to prevent things from just, Shen ulting someone from the very get-go, just for the sake of ulting them, giving them a shield, getting into the fight from the get-go, and just kind of, making it not just as useful and as effective. It's more kind of emphasized now on actually using this ability on an ally that actually legitimately needs it. Oh yeah, and the cooldown has also actually been increased by 20 seconds at rank 1, 30 by rank 2, and 40 by rank 3. But let's move along to the next champion that's essentially getting a rework, and that's gonna be Udyr. Pretty much a champion that has been non-existent in League of Legends for several patches. So the first thing we'll talk about, and the major thing, is going to be his Q. So the mana cost on this ability has been changed from being 47 to 35 by rank 1 to 5 to just being 50 at every single rank. However, and this applies to every single one of his QWER abilities, Udyr's stance mana costs decrease by 1 each time he levels up, which is somewhat of an odd mechanic to add to an ability, but I guess they're just testing it out and we'll see how it works. So his target stance no longer has his basic attacks deal 15% AD as bonus damage, but its persistent effect and the damage has been changed. The dot effect now also happens on every third attack after the first one, and the base dot damage has actually been changed to be dealing a little bit less damage, but you'll see why in just a little bit. But the thing that makes this ability even cooler is the fact that this is a new effect. New applications of Tiger Strike's dot on a target already affected by it now deals the remaining damage instantly while also applying the new one as well. So essentially getting a lot of attack speed is gonna be pretty damn strong on Udyr, getting attack speed and just flat out 80 damage. So be ready to see builds like Triforce come back in. And on top of all this, of course, the persistent effect of Udyr's Q ability will perform our Tiger Strike with his first basic attack and every third attack after that dealing bonus 30 to 150 plus 120 to 160% total AD as physical damage over 2 seconds. Then of course you have his turtle stance, which also had the mana cost change from being 50 at every single rank, having that mana cost reduced by 1 each time he levels up, but it now also has a new effect change. The persistent effect has been changed from giving him 18% lifesteal, by rank 5 of course, to Udyr's first attack and every third attack after heals him for 2.5% of his maximum health, increasing by 1% for every percent of Udyr's missing health. So this even further emphasizes Udyr to just simply build attack speed, because no longer does this ability heal him based on how much damage he can do and how much actual lifesteal he can have, but now it's just scaling off of his missing HP, off of his maximum HP, and every third auto attack, hence attack speed seems pretty damn good. And then of course his Bear and Phoenix stance have also had the mana changes applied to them as well. So all in all, definitely look for Udyr to come back into the meta as an attack speed oriented champion, and I feel like he can be definitely pretty damn strong. And the very last thing I want to just quickly mention is Cosmic Blade Master Yi. I mean, this skin looks absolutely just holy shit wonderful. It looks really cool in the game, the splash art looks absolutely just insanely cool. So with all that being said and done, guys, there you have it, the biggest changes coming to this patch 7.8. Got a new champion, actually 2 new champions, got some kind of questionable reworks, and all in all, a whole bunch of really cool things. So definitely make sure to look out for Udyr, because he can definitely be pretty damn strong. Shen I feel like could be pretty good as well. Rakan and Xayah are both fantastic champions, and even jungle Aatrox may be a thing. But regardless, if you guys end up enjoying this video, then let me know by hitting that like button. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't, share this video with your friends, and I'll see you for the next one. Peace.